Hello, YouTube. I always love sharing fast facts with y'all, and I love learning every day. Life is school. School didn't teach us much, but when you read and when you social media sometimes is educational too. I love learning. So earlier today, I saw on YouTube it said that prostitution was legal right on up until 1912. And it's very believable because Jack the Ripper, I know y'all heard of him, the very first serial killer in London, or just ever in the world. He killed prostitutes, and they thought that it was a doctor because he would take out their intestines, their uterus. So this was someone that was very skilled and knowledgeable in medicine because he would take out their body parts and put it on top of them. Very gruesome. And he obviously had an obsession with prostitutes. And so nobody stopped to think, oh, what up for me? I remember we studied him in my serial killers class when I was in school. And I was like, that was the only way. Somebody said something, and I was like, it's the 1800s. How else they going to make money unless if they basically, with the Europeans, it's not like they could do hair, or because European women or white women are different than black women. So it's not like, oh, they just going to do hair or whatever. Black women too, but just women in general back then, we didn't have rights, black or white. So it was very hard to find employment if you were a single woman. Let's take it a little further. Women were property right on up into the women's suffrage movement. When you got married, you were property. That's just what it was. When a man married you, it wasn't, something positive. Like, society has changed over time. Now when you get married, it's for love. Back then it was, I see a girl, she's beautiful, I want her to have my children, that's the one I want. And it was no romance, right? It became that way over time. And that's why America is very attractive to people, because we are a country that evolves. We don't have slavery in our country anymore. You can't beat women just for no reason anymore. You can't treat them like cattle or property anymore, right? It's a country that constantly evolves, and that's why it's so successful the way it is, because we are a progressive, evolving society for the most part. So it was just interesting that prostitution was legal right on up until 1912. And also, I always knew this, but it was definitely confirmed. Liquor used to be illegal and drugs were legal. Like, people say, oh, drugs are bad for people. The only reason why drugs are illegal is because it's hard for the government to tax drug dealers. It's so many of them. It's not because they care about people dying. If they cared about people dying, there would be more rehab centers. It's hard to find a rehab center if you notice. You walk down a block in the streets of New York City, for example, you have to look for a rehab center. They're just not there. You know what I mean? So that shows you how much they care about people and their drug habits. They don't care, right? So just you stop and think about that. Also, I was today years old when I learned that legal marriage was not legal until 1913. That's right. So all of and I kind of felt that was true because, just to envision somebody going to court, whatever. But our great grandparents and our great ancestors and stuff, they were not legally married, folks. And I kind of figured that. And so to what made me Google it was People's Court. I love that show. And it was a Muslim couple, and they were not legally married. And I kind of figured that because they always talk about, marriage. And I will always say aim to be a wife, but it's just interesting the history of marriage. So, basically, when they say they have multiple wives, the Muslim faith, they're not legally married to those women, right? And even their main wife, right, is not legal. And so this is the second time in court that I've heard that. Another time, no, I've heard it 3 times. Paternity court, the girl was like, he said it over the phone. So basically, in the Muslim faith, if you say it to somebody's face or over the phone and you have a ceremony, you are husband and wife, right? So when they try to downplay the black community and say, oh, they don't get married and this, that, and the third, it's like, okay, we make our own choices, right? The Asian faith or the Asian community, most of those relationships are arranged. There's no feelings, there's no type of romance and, oh, she wanted to be with him type love stuff. And Americans are the only ones who promote dating. We are the only culture that do that, because around the world, people don't be dating before marriage. It's arranged. Till this day in India, it's arranged. So you got people, you say you were a single parent and then they like, oh, you didn't marry him? No, I don't love him. Why would I marry him? Because I have a child? No. And it's like, that's why a lot of them have so many issues. We have our own issues too, but it's not on their level, right? So it's just interesting to know and to find out that a lot of these Muslims that you see, they have husbands, they are not legally married, folks. They are not. They are not. Very interesting. And marriage was not legal till 1913. So all your great grandparents and grandmammies and all of that, it wasn't legal. That's so funny to me. The truth is in the pudding. And those are my thoughts.